to hit record and you just missed all of it.
Well, the first episode we went like 2-3 hours, like we're just like we covered every topic under the sun. We're just riffing, and
Yeah.
I didn't know how to use the app very well, so
Oh
apparently you
no.
have to click record because just it's saying record doesn't count.
No. So
Um,
you missed the whole 2-3 hours.
the whole thing, yeah.
Oh,
We did it again the next day,
yeah.
and it wasn't as good, and I ended up cutting about half of it out, and I was like, man, we really nailed it the first time.
I hate when that happens. It's like when you go to record a throw and then you realize that, oh no, I never hit the button, like I missed the whole thing and now I'm recording when no one's throwing. It's dumb.
Yep. I never record the good ones.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I try to record every single one. It sucks and
Mhm.
then I have to go through and just delete a bunch of things, but then you get the good throws, hopefully, right? You get the
Right.
bad ones too, but at least you get the good one.
When I record throws, or like, so I record pretty much everything, but every now and again, like I won't film like some warm up drills and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
each time, instead of just walking directly out there and getting the implement, I turn around and take a couple steps towards the camera, and I'm like, there's no camera set up. It's just a habit.
Yeah, you're just always ready to be filmed.
Mhm.
Ugh.
I could do that. See, now we get to the part where I do an intro, and I'm really bad at intros, and they make me really
Okay.
nervous. So
Yeah. Hey,
I
just
wrote
skip
one
the
down.
intro. Let's go.
I mean, I guess so. Like, okay. So welcome back to another episode of the 9 Point Day podcast. I'm your host, Jacob. Austin is not with us today. We have a special guest. It is Amarissa Handy. She's a professional athlete. Dang it, I screwed that up. You know what? We're just going to roll right into it, because normally, like, the best way to do an intro, right, is you give like the background, like, oh, who this person is. Then you say their name. I just gave it away. I led with the end. See, this is what I'm talking
It's
about.
okay. It's
Okay, but
okay.
anyways, so you're a professional in the Highland Games, one of the top female throwers in the world. Um, Give us a little bit of background, like how you got into doing sports, because you have a sports background, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of sports, I guess. I think I've competed in over like 8 different sports.
That's a
Where I was
lot.
actually on a team and competing in different things for at least like a year. That's what I'm counting. Like if I did like a day camp, whatever. But actually on a team and doing things just from since childhood into adulthood. Um, I'm trying to think where this started. So, I mean, like as a kid, I was always active. We had some acreage, I'd run around on it. Grew up kind of that farmhand strength with my dad out in the yard, rolling around in manure and digging holes for trees, and just running around having a good time there, throwing hay bales. I had friends who kind of were farmers, so I'd help them with their chores and milking the cows and doing all whatever. So I guess that's kind of where I got started with just movement and kind of athletic things in general, just farmhand strength to start. In Utah, that's where I'm from originally. And, I started getting into, I'd say, organized sports in like high school. It was before then, actually. It was more like elementary school. I did start out on a basketball team. And then I actually moved to England for a little bit with my parents. My dad had a contract over there. So I lived in England for a time as a kid. We did a lot of traveling over there, but they have their own sports. And so I did netball and rounders. So netball.
Yeah, you're gonna have to explain those. I've never heard of that before, ever.
Yeah, so it's kind of just different versions of basketball and baseball, basically. So netball is like basketball, except that you can't move with the ball. So once they throw it to you, you have to stop and you can only pivot with one foot. So I guess it's kind
Okay.
of almost like rugby in that
Well,
term. And
I was gonna say that's like ultimate frisbee, right? You can just only pivot on one foot, and then you have to like ditch
yeah.
it. Okay.
That's pretty much that in a nutshell. And you're also limited to certain areas of the court. So only certain positions can go to certain areas of the court, and it's divided into thirds. So if you're like a goal shooter, you're only allowed in the third with your own net. And then if you're like a center, you can go pretty much anywhere. And they just had different positions like that. So I did a lot of that. That was a lot of fun, playing kind of a different sport that most people wouldn't play, at least in the US.
Right.
And then the other one was rounders, which is like baseball or softball, but it's a smaller bat. The bat's wooden, and you only hold it with one hand. You're only allowed to hold it with one hand, and you run with it. You don't drop it when you run. And the bases are poles, not actual bases. So just slightly different, in terms of that. And I also played cricket a little bit too, but that I wasn't on a team for that.
Well,
So.
yeah, I was gonna say, if you're in England, like you got to play cricket. That's kind of like their jam.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's fun.
I just looked it up.
Uh-huh.
Netball. That I've seen
Yeah.
this before. It's like
Okay.
basketball with weird rules and no backboard.
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely. So you
yeah,
got to be kind of accurate and tall, it helps.
yeah.
So I
I'm
was like
looking at
the
pictures
tallest
and
person in my school by like a foot. So I was absolutely goal shooter or goal attack. That's what I played.
incredible.
Yeah. And no
And
dribbling, because I suck at dribbling. I can't dribble for shit. So, it was helpful that I can't do that in that sport.
well, I don't know the rules because I never played basketball. Like really played
Hmm.
it. Uh,
Yeah.
there's rules for dribbling that apparently I don't know because
Yeah.
I played at my buddy's house one day with his neighbor and his neighbor's kid, and it was 2-on-2. And this
Uh-huh.
child was just smoking me, and he kept making fun of me for how I was dribbling, and he kept calling me like Mr. Double Dribble. And I'm like,
Oh,
dude, I don't
yeah.
know what double dribbling is. I have no idea. I just go like this, and is that it?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, so there are rules there too with how you can move with the ball with dribbling, but yeah, no, if you take any steps with the ball in netball, nope, it's done, it's over to the other team. So you gotta, as soon as you get it, literally your right foot or whatever dominant foot plants and you cannot move it. So you just kind of spin around, try to get it away from people and then try to pass it. So it's a lot of teamwork and communication in that way, even a little more than basketball.
so and
But
the
yeah,
other
so I
one was
mean,
the other one was rounders,
rounders.
you said.
Rounders.
Those are just the oddest sports.
Yep. I know, yeah. Most people don't even know what I'm talking about, but yeah, it's kind of like baseball. I think only the women played it too, and cricket was more male, but we still did it in like our PE classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just kind of a lot of things like that to start, and then in high school, I didn't actually start in track and field. I started in swimming. So I was a swimmer for a while, and then from there both of my swim coaches, one was also a track coach and one was also water polo. And so they were like fighting over me to come and do one or the other sport. One wanted me to come try throwing for track and field and the other one wanted me to play water polo. So I actually played both, for a little bit. I said I only did water polo during the summer. Technically they have the same spring season, but I went and did water polo and then I was also training for throwing and track and field. And I was weightlifting. So there was a time in the summer where I was training for 8-hour plus days, with lifting, throwing, and swimming. And I could not eat enough to maintain that. I was coming home from practice. Like I was trying to eat in between as best I could, but that was hard. And I'd come home and I'd cook 3 plates of food, just like meat, potatoes, and like vegetables, fruit, something. And then I would fall asleep eating the first plate, wake up, keep eating the next one, and then like keep falling asleep in between eating these plates of food just to try to keep up with all of it. That was like the most insane time. I mean, I loved it, but it was exhausting for sure.
So how
Um,
long did you do? How long did you do water polo?
It was pretty much just the year, just that one year. So I was competing on the team. I was going to like 2 or 3 hour practices every day for most of the summer. And then that was coming off of swimming. So I kind of was still doing swimming a bit too. So I competed in a couple tournaments for that. That sport's kind of wild too. Like you don't realize how aggressive that sport is. But they like
Oh
teach you
yeah.
how to go for pressure points in people's shoulders so that you can like get control of someone with your fingers. And they also have to do mandatory nail checks before you get in the water to make sure your nails aren't too long so that you can't dig them into people and like hurt them.
That's wild.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you got to get a special suit too that zips so you can't rip it off.
makes
It's
sense.
brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the sports out there. Like water polo would be one of the hardest ones for me to play because you're just treading water, and
That's exhausting.
I just can't do that. I've almost drowned in a pool a number of times.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a rough sport. I mean, there's no bottom to that pool in a proper water polo pool. I mean, you are treading the whole time. You're treading or you're sprinting the whole time. It's exhausting. I would barely last like a quarter, and a quarter is like 6 minutes. It was rough, in terms of that. So that I don't think was going anywhere for me, just because I'm really not a stamina person. I am more of a strength lifting, explosive 5 second kind of person rather than 6 minutes to hours worth of things, like I'd say my endurance is okay. And you've got to have some of that definitely when it comes like to Highland Games and whatnot, but like having the breaks in between and the rest and recovery is nice. I just do a
Yeah.
little better when it's that short burst versus like continual pain, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was probably one of the most intense sports I've done. And then from there, that's when I kind of really started specializing in track and field. It was just kind of picked it up. It was going well. I was having fun. Started working with some coaches, and it just kind of took off from there. So I did that pretty seriously all through high school. Eventually, I was able to earn that scholarship to go to the University of Arizona to throw shot put and hammer. I threw discus for a little bit too, but for whatever reason, I just could not figure that one out very well. It just, we kind of tried it for a year in college, and it just was not going well. I think that's why weights don't really go super well for me now, because I kind of view that as almost discus. Like it's a little bit discusy. It's not fully, but
It's discus light. Yeah, it's around there.
yeah, for some reason that movement just doesn't, I just have to really work at it to understand it. It doesn't go as naturally for me as something like shot or stones would go.
Yeah, well, it seems like for me, a person who's never competed in track and field, like never really competed in it, uh,
Hmm.
shot and discus seem like the same thing. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, you glide, so I guess it's
Yeah,
different.
I was about to say it depends on your technique, but yeah. So I mean, rotation in shot put and discus, it is a little different. It's very subtle in the
Mhm.
difference, but it's just the difference in the weight of the implement, right? It's like how lightweight for distance and heavyweight for distance are pretty similar, but they're a little bit different. The timing just a little
Yeah,
bit off. Maybe you're a little bit slower in some places, a little bit faster in others, or maybe you cut a corner differently than you would based on the weight of the implement. So the same kind of deal.
yeah. I
But I
count.
did actually do both. I glided and I rotated. So I started glide in high school and into college. And actually my last year, my senior year, we swapped to rotation because I was just kind of having some struggles and some mental blocks. So we tried rotation, and it still went well. I threw about the same, to be honest, actually.
That's good.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it hard to make that transition from the glide?
Into rotation.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you I was still doing it correctly, to be honest, but I mean, I trained for years with the glide and it went well for me. I think through high school to my freshman year, glide was going really well. And after that, I think there was a bit of burnout, and just being a student athlete is a rough kind of life. And I had just life things going on. So it was kind of making competing in my sport a little difficult. And so I think that just mentally being able to swap over to thinking a little differently, and it made it new enough to make it exciting enough to get me kind of back in the game a little bit, as well as, just a lot of my old habits that I've had since high school were really hard to break. So kind of getting to a new way of moving, I think, was helpful. They're just a little different. But like I said, I spent years doing glide, and I did end up throwing kind of the same after less than a year of training rotation at the time. So it's kind of hard to say if that was just me being a quick study at the time or if it was just a better way for me to throw. I don't know. But I just prefer the glide. It's just something that I know really well. And at this point, it's just kind of fun for me to do. So I haven't really rotated in the games yet.
Do you feel specifically for the games? Do you think that like rotational technique has like a higher like what am I trying to say? If you do it right, it will go further than like a good glide will. Do you think that's true?
I mean, there's always been that debate, even in track and field too, like which one is better. And I truly don't think that there's a blanket statement for that. I think it really depends on the person, like how big are they? How strong are they? Are they a giant who's 6'8", or are they like 6 foot below? I think those are things that people can use to their advantage. If you're 6'8", I mean, you could do both, but you could probably glide pretty well. You've got this just lever to work on,
Mhm.
and if you're able to put the strength behind that, I mean, like looking at John, like just big dude, just very explosive, like, yeah, he should be gliding. I mean, we could see what he does in a rotation. Maybe he'd still make it work, but I think it's easier for smaller throwers to do that more rotation and get more out of it than they would to try to glide, and the same thing vice versa. So I think it just depends on your preference, how explosive you are, and how big you are.
Yeah, that's kind of the conclusion that I came to on my own. And I told
Mm-hmm.
myself it's going to go further because it's a further it's a further technique. But
Mm-hmm.
when I
If you
was
do it
doing,
right.
yeah, if you do it and like
Yeah.
that's difficult. I am I am
Right.
I am struggling so hard, but I'm
Yeah.
committed. This is the second off season where I've worked on rotating,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm actually going to do it throughout the entire year instead of just
Great.
trying it out.
Right.
Um, but I'm 6'1" in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like
What
it
are you in
works
the evening?
about 6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Only an inch
that's
shrink. That's pretty good.
yeah, that gravity, like it is bad. So
It gets you. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. I just felt like that's the move based on like how big
Mm-hmm.
I am,
Yeah.
which like general population, I'm a pretty big guy,
Oh,
but
I know. Yeah.
In Highland Games terms, like I'm little. I'm
Yeah. No,
240. I'm 6 foot 245. Like that's a little guy.
I know. I feel the same way, and just, yeah, in throwers in general, when I'm talking to the general population, I'm like, oh yeah, like tall. Like when I say tall, I'm talking like 6'8", 6'7",
Yep.
and me being, I'm 6 foot, around like 195. I'm small for a lot of some of the female throwers I have met, especially out in the Midwest and like the NCAA and SEC, so it's just kind of crazy what the comparison is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that's okay.
so so you threw all 4 years in college.
Yeah.
Did you try to do the post collegiate thing?
Oh no, not really. To be honest, like I said, I was burnt out through kind of the middle of my career. I was getting tired, and then I managed to kind of turn things around that senior year. And I was able to come back and get back to my numbers and kind of have almost this like fairy tale ending with like finishing packs at home in at Tucson. Um, right before COVID, actually, it was 2019 when that happened. So I was able to kind of finish things off, but I still needed a year to graduate, finish my degree, and do everything I wanted to do. So I actually became a team manager for a little bit after that, just to kind of help with tuition and things and still stay a part of the team, but, not competing anymore. So I was kind of okay with being done with it, or at least taking a step back for a little bit and having a break. I still kept up with my strength numbers. I still lifted. I still threw a little bit just for fun. But I think after throwing that long and having so many mental blocks over that time, I was just kind of ready to have a bit of a break and be okay with it. And I wasn't to a level where I could comfortably say I could have gone to any kind of professional level. It was always just going to kind of be a for fun thing at that point. Like you have those tiers in college where like, oh yeah, the top tier for sure could absolutely go professional. They could go compete in the Olympics right now. And then you have just this big middle ground of like, yeah, pretty good, might make it, and then down to like, like kind of average. I would say that's kind of where I fell. It was kind of in the middle, just average. Not super great, not the worst. And so I wasn't really looking to go anywhere with that, but
Hmm.
I had always like known about the Highland Games, I guess. It was always in the back of my head. And growing up in England, I think I went to one in England. It wasn't Scotland, but I think it was in Scarborough. And I remember watching that as a kid. I saw more of like, the kids game kind of stuff. It wasn't like the real true thing. But I still remember, and I knew the history of it and had seen a lot of that physically there. So it was kind of always in the back of my head. And then my coach at the time, TJ Creeder at U of A, had done Highland Games way back in the day too. And so he had talked about it, and I was talking to him about it, and he was able to kind of mentor me a little bit and get me started with like what I need in my gear bag and like how to start throwing. And like he kind of started coaching me a little bit with like weights and some of the other different events like sheaf and getting a fork and all that kind of stuff. So he kind of got me started there. And I had kind of planned to get going into that. Of course, COVID happened, so that kind of threw some things off too with starting, but eventually got there. And I actually convinced him and Aaron Castle to go and throw with me at Tucson at our first game. So we kind of all showed up together. We got our coach back in there. We got Aaron in there. I got in there. And we just had a really fun time. And I remember us all sitting there at the end of the games. And Aaron and I were just looking at each other like, that was fucking awesome, right? Like, yeah, that was great. That was way better than track and field. And like TJ was like, I can tell you two are hooked. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. I was one of my questions was it you who got Aaron into it, or was Aaron who got you into it?
No, that was me. It was all me. I got my coach and Aaron. Like Aaron wasn't going to do it until like the very end. And then I think we kind of convinced him, cause my coach wasn't going to do it either, but I kind of dragged him into it too. So I dragged everybody in. I was ready to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are both doing very well, it seems.
I'd say so. Yeah. I think Aaron's having a good time too.
Yeah. He seems to be enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a weird guy. in like the best way. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So 2021 was your first year, like your first full
Yeah,
season,
it
or
it would have been. It would have been the end of 2020. Would have been my first games, I believe, in November, because that's when Tucson holds our games, is in November.
Mhm.
So that was the first one. And then so I started at the very end of the season. So I threw once and I was like, I'm ready to go. And I'm like, there's no more games until like freaking April. I was like, come on. Or like March, I guess, for Phoenix. So I was kind of itching to go there, but my first games, I kind of just walked into it and I didn't really know what to expect. And I actually ended up, I think, winning every event. And so I took every single extra throw because I thought it was like track and field where, they count and you get extra numbers and like you should take them. No one bothered to tell me they didn't actually count for scoring. So like I took a million throws that first games and I did all the challenge of it. I did everything. And I just kind of sat there at the end. I was exhausted.
So, yeah, you said they didn't count for scoring, like the overall for the day, or
Yeah, like how like those extra throws that you take when you win the event, like
yeah.
I've been to a lot of games at least that they don't actually count them for scores. They just count for field records. Like it's not actually
And
counted in scoring.
I don't like that. I take a lot of issue with that. Well, because
Yeah.
like it depends on how you're scoring. If you're scoring it on like a 9-point day, like a perfect day is 9 points,
Right.
then if you win the event, you can take the extras. You still put it into NASGA or heavy athlete now,
Right.
because it's not going to adjust. It's not going to change your score for the day. I can see the argument being made if you're doing like decathlon scoring,
Right.
just because like that you get no one else gets 3 extra attempts, just one person, and that could really like boost your score getting 3 extra attempts. And some will say like, well, you earned those 3, so it should count still. But
right.
I don't know. If you set a nasty PR, it needs to be entered. That's whatever. I'm just nitpicking, I guess.
mean, I agree, but like, it's kind of learning how all that worked at the first. I had like no idea what was going on. So I was like, where did these numbers go? Like I threw a better number than this. What are they talking about? Like sometimes it really takes me 5 throws to get going. A lot of my like PR kind of throws usually end up in that like 5th throw because I'm finally like kind of dialed in and ready to go. So yeah, I agree. I think they should be counted, but some games do, some games don't. And who knows what happens with scoring sometimes.
So did you set any field records with those extras?
Oh, that I don't remember that day. I'd have to go look it up and see. I don't think so at the time. If I would have, it would have been like a stone thing or maybe even hammer, because those were what I was pretty fresh on at the time. When I started with like sheath, I mean, I was kind of down there, for a little bit. And for a while, I mean, I was throwing with a legitimate actual fork from Home Depot that I didn't shape down because I didn't know better. So I had no
Nice.
idea what was going on with the fork. So it was just this like fork, it just got stuck. It wouldn't work. So, practicing was terrible for sheath. It was just kind of weird to transition over to that one. But once I finally got a real fork, that's when it really started going well. And then caber, you kind of just show up and try it.
Yep.
It went fine. I mean, I did it. It was a light stick because I didn't really know what I was doing. So I really got my ass handed to me when I got to Phoenix, and I was with like the women's A's with like, Felicia, Jarvina, and everybody. And they had almost a pro level women's caber, and I couldn't even pick it because I didn't know how to pick anything. I was like getting my hands on it. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. This is not track and field. Like I'm not in Kansas anymore, kind of a thing. So that was a bit weird to kind of work on with the caber. So after that, I was like, okay, that really killed me. I really need some caber help. What do I do? So there's a great practice group with some good friends that are up in Phoenix that I kind of reached out to and was like, hey, do you guys have cabers? Can I come and like try to figure this out? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I just would go up there every once in a while and get some hands on their cabers. And it's time. It's just time with a caber is kind of understanding how to do caber. There's really not much you can do, I think, until you get to actually holding a caber over and over again. So I got into caber for like 2 hours. I go through cabers for 2 hours like every month, just back and forth and over and over and over again until it made sense.
Yeah, that's one way to do it. I recommend to everyone is to not practice cabers and just go to more games. And if you're ever at a games and like they're discussing like, oh, like should we throw this caber, this one? Always recommend if you're new to cabers, like recommend like, oh, we do a qualifier and then a challenge one. So you might get two opportunities to throw two different sticks, and that'll help you learn.
Yeah, true.
That's unless have a practice group that like has cabers and stuff like that.
Exactly. But, yeah, I was lucky in that respect. Yeah. We have a good groups for cabers here, so I can find that.
But for me, I can't imagine loading up a caber onto the top of my 4Runner, driving it to the park, and like then throwing it a bunch by myself, and then loading it back up. That seems like a real chore.
I mean, the people up in Phoenix, I happen to know they mounted a caber holder on top of like their Honda Civic or whatever. It's great. You can do it.
I mean, it is possible.
Right.
But
you're right. Lots
are
of
just
effort,
in your mind.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's actually really good. Like that, having a group that you can like practice with and like have access to all the implements and stuff like that is, it's a huge cheat code to learning how to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say. Yeah, like at the beginning, it was helpful to kind of go with groups of people. For the most part, I do throw on my own, but when I need that specialty equipment or help, or like it's just nice to get with a group of people, is really nice to have.
Yeah. I was going to say the other cheat code is throwing collegiately. That's
ultimate
cheating.
Cheat code for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've been throwing for now probably 13 years, something like that. So like including high school into college and now in Highland Games, this is why I'm hitting the numbers I am, because I have just thrown and lifted and trained this way for so freaking long. Once you've been doing something for 10 years, hopefully you've gotten to a decent level, so that's absolutely.
Yeah. I've been throwing for 7, and it's not enough. Every day I'm like, you should have started years before. I'm telling myself, you should have started before you ever heard of the Highland Games.
Right.
But that's where I'm at.
I know. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Right. That would be nice. And I think it's also a matter of like just how much throwing you're getting in, right? Because I think in Highland Games, we kind of just fit it in wherever we can, right? None of us are doing this like for making any kind of money, really, even at the pro level. We're just doing this for fun, to stay active, be part of a community, and just have fun throwing weird shit around, So it's kind of how much you're into it, right? So track and field throwing, I mean, you were probably doing a lot more consistent work and a lot more higher volume work all of the time, when you were in high school, at least to start. And then going into college, absolutely. I mean, you've got a coach on your ass. You are maybe on a scholarship, like you're there doing it every day and multiple days, 2 days, 3 days, So that consistency is just sort of built in, versus like if you didn't do that to start and you're jumping into Highland Games and you're just fitting it around work or whatever else you've going on, it's just not as much consistency or framework as you would have had if you started earlier.
Yeah, for the average person, this is
exactly.
My whole life is based around Highland Games, so
Nice.
the training, the throwing, all of it, everything works around that.
Perfect.
But
yeah.
I'm odd. I don't have a day job, so it makes it easier.
Exactly. Well, right. Yeah. I mean, if you're able to, right? Everyone's different. So some people got to fit it in here and there, and other people are able to put a lot more time and effort into, or just make that happen, But the average person, I'd say it's hard to, do.
Yeah. My training has slowed down a whole lot last month.
Yeah.
I just had a brand new baby, and so that's
congrats.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, he's
definitely slows life down a bit.
Yeah, this is kid number 3, and I forgot how much time they take.
What it was like.
Yeah, because like the first 2, like they're like 6 years apart, so 6 years is a long time. Like it's really easy to forget about.
Yeah.
Like how late you have to stay up, how early you have to get up, all of it. It's exhausting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just priority shift, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah. For a time, it'll swing back the other way.
Yeah, eventually. They'll get more independent. They'll be fine.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. So you are a dietitian.
Yes.
Is that what you went to like college for? Is to become a dietitian?
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, my degree is in nutritional sciences, and I did it's called DPD track, which is basically like the one to become a dietitian, the dietetics track. And I also have a minor in biochemistry because there is a lot of chemistry when you do nutrition, and so it kind of just overlapped enough for me to get that too. So just a lot of science, a lot of math. It is a STEM degree. A lot of people maybe don't realize that with nutrition, but it is a lot of chemistry and biochemistry and all of it. So yes, I did go to school for that, got my degree, and then you have to go through an internship after that. So then I did another year at a hospital here in town working with patients in a clinical setting, and then I went to community settings and saw a bunch of different groups of people, from like eating disorders to school nutrition to kidney dialysis type of things. So just kind of all over the place there. Then you have to sit and take an exam, pass the exam, and then you can become a dietitian after that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly why, I work hard for my credential, and like I like to think that I'm kind of up there in terms of some of that, because the difference between like a dietitian and perhaps a nutritionist is that nutritionists don't have to go through that. They don't have to have that credential. A lot of people can just call themselves nutritionists in different states, and it doesn't mean that they have a degree or really know what they're talking about necessarily.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would never have guessed that, because I guess I don't know enough about nutrition and dieting and things like that to know that there is a difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist. So
yeah, that's pretty common.
So I can be a nutritionist and just get a certification and declare myself one.
You don't even need a certification in most places. You could
right
now call yourself a nutritionist, possibly. Depending on your laws in your state, you might be able to, yes. And sometimes there are other credentials besides being a registered dietitian, or RD or RDN, which would be registered dietitian nutritionist. I think that one's silly, but that's the same thing basically. But there's like LDNs, CNs, there's a lot of different credentials that don't necessarily mean they don't know what they're talking about. It's just, they all just have different levels of credentialing and needing an internship or hours or a degree behind their name or things like that. So it's just kind of like knowing what some of those credentials are and what it takes to get them. Not every dietitian will be that great either, but not every nutrition, and maybe some nutritionists are really good and they do know some of their stuff, but it's just kind of, you're kind of paying a little bit for that peace of mind that like, hopefully this person knows what they're doing because they went to school for it and they have a degree in it, kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go down that route instead of like being a lawyer or something?
Ugh, I wouldn't want to be a lawyer in general, but since I was a kid, I've always wanted to go into the medical field. I don't know why, but I was that weird kid who ran around with the family medical book, looking at pictures because I thought it was cool, and like it
Yeah.
had all the coloring books for like the body parts kind of a thing, and like played with the skulls out in the backyard from the coyotes or whatever that were out there. I don't know. I just kind of was always interested in medicine. And health and things like that as a kid growing up. I have no idea where that came from because my dad's an engineer and my mom's a teacher, so I had no idea what that was about. But I originally wanted to go to medical school and become a doctor until, I mean, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 11. And so at that point, I was still kind of wanting to be a doctor. I was in the hospital interacting with doctors, and I probably had more doctor's visits than normal because of my dealing with my conditions. And so that was kind of always what I wanted to do, but always in the background was all of this nutrition stuff going on, and I was taught a lot about nutrition when I was first diagnosed because it affects diabetes a lot. Your management of your blood sugar is a lot affected by nutrition. It's definitely not all of it, but a big part of that is nutrition. And so they taught me about carbs and, how to count them and how to basically give yourself enough medication to account for those kinds of things. And then from there, I kind of pieced together other parts of it, like, oh, how does protein affect that as well, and fat, and like all those other things. So it kind of was like just this weird love I discovered over time because I didn't really think about it as a career first off. It just happened. I always loved fruits and vegetables. We always had them at my dinner table all the time. We always had all these things there, and I just sort of worked with them over time. And I got to college and just kind of realized how rough medical school was going to be, and how I was getting kind of burnt out and tired anyway. I did go all the way through it, and I took the MCAT and everything, which was terrible, by the way. The MCAT is the worst exam you could ever take ever. And then I kind of just decided, what, like my score wasn't super competitive. I don't think I'm in this as much as I thought I was earlier. And I'm kind of realizing the realities of what being a doctor is in terms of lifestyle and in terms of how many hours you gotta put in for that, even when you actually get your MD. And I just didn't think that was kind of a lifestyle I wanted. I didn't want to have to work 80, 120 hour weeks and sleep on the on-call room kind of a thing, and it's not Grey's Anatomy. It's not Scrubs. It's not like, that is not what working in a hospital is. I know that now. It's a lot harder and there's more burnout involved. So at any rate, somewhere along the lines there, I decided to switch my degree over to something that I thought had another plan in place with being a dietitian. So originally I was a physio major, so going into med school, and then I switched to nutrition as a way to kind of just build my own interests, help myself with my own knowledge, with my own conditions. And then I just kind of realized along the way that, what? I kind of like this. Like, let's keep doing this. I would rather do something that I like and know instead of going down this other path. So that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
Do you feel like being a dietitian helps you in the Highland Games?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it gives me a lot of knowledge about how to appropriately fuel, and how to recover and how to, hit protein numbers, and just knowing different kinds of foods that maybe people don't think about all the time. And being able to both train and build muscle and compete. I absolutely think so.
Do you track like macros and stuff daily?
Not right now, no. For me personally, just because like I feel like I know food pretty well. That doesn't mean I'm perfect in estimation, but there is a certain amount I do have to track and know in my own head because I am constantly counting carbs. Carbs are kind of more of the game.
Sure.
But when you're looking at blood sugars, there is more that's affected there too. Like I do need to know my fat numbers and my protein numbers. So at least in my head, I'm tracking all those numbers. Whether or not I am adding them all together at the end of the day is a different thing, right? So it's like per meal, like, okay, how many carbs, how much protein, how much fat am I having? But then I like forget that and go to the next meal. I'm not like tracking it all the time. I will check in with myself just to see like, oh, how many calories am I eating about right now? How much protein, and just make sure like, ooh, hey, like I noticed this about my tracking right now. Maybe I should pivot a little bit and change that. If I had a really specific goal, like trying to lean out or get a specific amount of body fat or muscle amount, absolutely, I would be tracking every single day. And I recommend that with my clients when we're working on specific goals. But if you don't have a specific goal, I may as well not burn myself out on tracking numbers all the time, if I'm not trying to get somewhere specifically.
I heard once that the nutrition labels on food are like 20 to 60% off, in that range. Like they can be. Do you find that to be accurate?
I don't know about 60%. I think I've heard and read possibly the 20%. But I'm not going to lie, that is probably the most accurate measure that we have, in terms of coming to a food. Whenever I'm having someone track or look at things, or I have someone with diabetes that we're working on carb counting with, I mean, I always recommend to start with the nutrition label because that is likely the most accurate thing that we have to start with. And then from there, you would go to like a database like MyFitnessPal or Calorie King or like Google to look at things. But yes, it will always be somewhat off. It's not a perfect science unless you are taking something and putting it in like a bomb calorimeter and like doing the science all the way through,
Yeah.
So no one's got time for that.
No. Yeah. I do you think MyFitnessPal is a useful tool to use?
Yeah, I do. Most of my clients, I do have them work through MyFitnessPal just because it's a big database. It's got a lot of stuff in it. You can build recipes. It's an app on your phone. It's convenient. You can add stuff in pretty quickly, and like you can add friends together. So like for me, I just have all my clients add me as a friend, and I can look at their logs and see what's going on and maybe make changes, or like, hey, like spacing of things or the timing of things or the numbers. So I think it can be helpful if people are wanting to track. And I do recommend that everyone tracks to get a baseline of what they're doing and then to see how they can change little things here and there.
Yeah, I used to use MyFitnessPal until like they made it so you can't scan
Yeah.
barcodes on the free plan. I was
Yeah,
like,
they put a lot of
well,
paywalls up and it's annoying, but you can still use the basic functions. It's just they've made it a little harder to earn a little more money, right?
yeah, I was like, well,
hmm
guess I'm not tracking my food anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different apps out there. It doesn't have to be MyFitnessPal. That's just one that I know that's kind of convenient. I have an account on and we can work through with that and you can pay for it if you want. You don't need to, but just as long as we're not like estimating and just thinking that we're there, right? I mean, one of the studies I've read recently was that like people can be up to 50% off on how much of their calories they're actually eating. Like we just think we're better at estimating than we are. We're not that good. So measuring
Well,
stuff out, portioning,
yeah,
weighing, and like actually tracking is really the best way to get a result that you want.
yeah. I was about to say like since I don't use MyFitnessPal anymore. I mean, I will if I'm making like a big change. Like if I'm like
hmm
if I'll go like 2 weeks if I'm like, oh, we're trying to be in a like when I was a lightweight athlete. I
Yeah,
was
for
tracking my
sure.
food pretty regularly, and
Yeah.
doing it year round was just a real pain. So I
Isn't it? Yeah.
would, I'll do like 2 weeks. Like this is kind of what I eat for like 2 weeks and kind of get an idea, and I'll just keep
hmm
doing that.
Yep.
Uh, but now, since I don't use it as often,
hmm
so I don't need to. I
Yeah.
eyeball everything, and I feel like I'm pretty accurate, but I'm
Yeah.
probably about 50% off.
Right?
But
Yeah, no, I
but
mean,
but it's in like the higher end direction, which like that's the
yeah.
goal. Like as long as I'm eating more than enough, that's perfect.
hmm
So I
Yeah,
think
and
that works for me.
it's like it just comes down to absolutely what works for you and what your goals are, right? So when you were a lightweight, it was really important to you to make sure you were staying on your weight and getting below your goals so that it was easier to cut and like going through those bulk and cut cycles and things like that, right? But now, if that's not our goal, we can eat a little differently. We can be a little, less strict about it. And that's why like people ask me like, oh, well, what should I be eating for this? Like how many with the numbers and things like that. And I'm like, well, I can't give you an answer for that. Or like, how do I eat healthier? Well, what are your goals? Because to someone eating more is healthier, to someone else eating less is healthier, or less of a certain item or more of a certain item. So like, it's really hard to make these blanket statements. It's really all about who the person is, what works for them, and what their goals are and how to get there. And that's what a dietitian should be good at doing, is trying to work that into your life in a way that works for you, instead of just saying, oh, well, do this. And then that just totally doesn't work. It's a lot of counseling, and really trying to make something work for a person specifically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as like Highland Games goes, like what are some habits that you see Highland Games athletes like doing as far as like their nutrition goes? Some bad habits.
You mean like during a games?
Yeah, just like in the
Or like in
games
general?
or just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you
Yeah.
see us? Are we doing good?
I mean, I think that
Or
depends
sorry.
on the person.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, obviously I'm not like watching everybody be like, ooh, what are you eating? Like, you shouldn't be eating that. What? Like no, unless you're paying me to do that, I'm not going to be doing that. So, but some things I have noticed, and some things that I find common in like some of my athletic clients, are like not eating or not eating enough, or like skipping breakfast or skipping lunch, or like I have seen people not eat the entirety of a games, or, and I've right, because people are like, I'm not hungry. I'm like, I don't care. Your body is still needs it. I promise. So I think that's one of the biggest things I see, is people not eating enough or not fueling appropriately for the activity that they're doing. That's number one. And then two, I've mentioned it before, even talking to people, the freaking Sour Patch Kids gummy bear thing. Like that's, if you feel better doing that, sure, you know what? But like really it's not doing that much for you, in terms of really fueling you for that day, especially if you haven't even eaten breakfast. Like eat a
Yeah.
real breakfast instead of Sour Patch Kids halfway through. Kind of a thing. So those are like the two biggest things I normally see.
Yeah. I tend to stay away from the sugar on games day.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mostly because like I will crash and I will feel it, and I gotta keep and I gotta keep doing it, keep upping
Right.
the
We got
ante.
9 events to get through, people. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
unless you just want your first couple events to be good and then the rest of the day is crap, like that, if that's what you want, sure. But, give yourself a little bit more than that to get through the whole day,
Yeah. So
for sure.
Austin, the other co-host,
Hmm.
since he's not here today, he wrote in some questions, and he
Yeah.
wants to know why are Uncrustables the goat on-field snack?
I mean, because they're delicious and very
They are
convenient.
delicious.
I
Yeah.
honestly is probably what I would say. I think that's just something that's cheap, convenient, it's portable. You can go to a grocery store in any town that you're in and pick them up, and they're a source of, pretty decent carbohydrates, and they're mixed in there a little bit with some protein and a little bit of fat. So I would say, in terms of what you're looking for a day of fueling, that's probably pretty good. You're looking for like mostly a lot of carb sources to give yourself that quick energy during the day, because that's what our body uses as our fastest energy source, is carbohydrates. Your brain, your muscles, they want carbs first. And then to kind of sustain that throughout the day, that's where we want some protein to make sure we're keeping, enough there for your muscles to keep going. And then also sustaining that carb absorption, because protein slows down how fast that carb is absorbed. So if we have a little bit of both together throughout the whole day, that kind of helps just sustain you for the whole competition, not just the first 3 that you might care about with the gummy bears. So I really recommend trying to have both of those food sources during the day, and Uncrustables definitely offer that.
Do you think like would you consider protein, or sorry, peanut butter more of a fat or more of a protein source?
It's both. I mean, in terms of numbers, definitely fat. It's a higher fat content. I mean,
Hmm.
peanut butter, like what, a Jif or a Skippy, that's going to be like, I think it's 16 grams of fat and about 7 grams of protein. So, I mean, yeah, technically it is more of a fat. So in terms of getting in enough protein. Lots of people think it's really packed with protein, but technically for the calories it gives you, it's not necessarily the best source. So if you're trying to put on some more mass and you don't care about the calories, that can be a good option. If we're maybe trying to lean out, we're trying to go on a deficit and hit protein goals without extra calories, it might not be the best option. And I think another thing people think of too is that like they think it's high in sugar. I mean, it's not. It's not that many carbs. It's like less than 10, and there's maybe
Hmm.
only 2 grams of added sugar, which is why I think the no sugar peanut butter is silly because it's literally 2 gram difference in
Right.
the added sugar. And for some reason that makes all the difference because I hate no sugar added peanut butter. I do not like the taste of it.
I don't think I've ever had no sugar peanut butter or
Yeah.
seen it. Is that like PB2? Is that what PB2 is? Like the
I don't
the
know about
powder
PB2.
stuff?
Oh, that I mean that is that just doesn't have a lot of the fat content. That's more like just
Okay.
pure protein. So like,
Because I
in fact, I made
okay.
a joke the other day that I could mix. I want to try to make peanut butter as proteiny as possible by like mixing more of the dry peanut butter into it. I want to see how much I can get in before it just makes me want to hate myself, you know?
Yeah, I use peanut butter for like protein shakes
hmm
because they're not good anymore. Protein shakes used to like taste halfway decent. I
Yeah.
can't stand them now. But
Like
like
ones that you make or like the bottles that you buy.
the ones you make, the bottles like
Yeah.
like the Premier Protein,
hmm
those are actually those aren't half bad.
I
But
think those
like
are pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, all the powder stuff I've been getting, just I don't like it at all.
What powder are you
And but
buying? Like
uh
what kind do you normally get?
yeah, like Optimum Gold and
Okay. Yeah.
like Dymatize. Dymatize is way cheaper than Optimum these days, and
Mm.
it tastes like it.
Yeah.
but but if you put two American sized tablespoons of peanut butter in there, it cuts out all that
American
gross.
size tablespoon.
Yeah, so that's like another
Yep.
thing that like I've noticed a lot of people are like, oh, two tablespoons of peanut butter is a serving, and like they're
Right.
getting like globs of it. They're making four
hmm
tablespoons and calling it
Again,
two.
with we suck at estimation, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm guilty of that as well, right? Like, oh, I ate 2 tablespoons. I'm like, no, did I really though? I think it was more like four. Like,
yeah. Especially with peanut butter, I'm very aware of what I'm doing with it. Like, I know
yeah,
how much that is.
exactly, right. But I mean, that's what I honestly recommend keeping like half cup measures or tablespoon measures nearby these things and using those to scoop out. Because then you can see instead of grabbing a spoon, why not grab a tablespoon measure and just measure it out directly? Or
Yeah,
like I posted a story a while back of me drinking like chocolate milk out of a 2 cup measure because why not? Like why would I measure that out and then pour it into a cup? Just drink it right out of the thing. Why not? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
That's, I mean, that works.
Why not?
Um,
You know?
I mean, when I was like dieting for being a lightweight, like
hmm
I've eaten stuff with like the measuring spoons before,
Yeah.
but
Why not? Don't have to dirty 2 dishes. You get it measured out and there you go.
yeah, the problem is they're not a good shape to eat with, like measuring spoons.
Yeah.
Like they have like a hard edge and like it's really deep and it's not
Sure.
great.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we should make our own line of like cookware that is like meant to eat directly out of it and equates to the real measures. That would be a good idea.
That's not a bad idea. I've
Hey.
I've I've seen some chef has like on the palm of his hand he has a tattoo of like
Oh, like the
teaspoons and
sizes.
tablespoons. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
and I was thinking about doing that for like 6 ounces of chicken. This is what 6 ounces of chicken looks like, and I'm like, that's a pretty
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah, and I use that measure all the time for people too. Actually, it's like, oh, the palm of your hand, the size of your palm is like about the size of like a portion of meat, kind of a
Yeah,
thing. hmm
yeah, and once you like
That's
start
cool.
weighing your food a ton, like you start like you're like okay, like a piece of steak like this thick, that's like the size of my
hmm
hand. Like we know exactly what that is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can get pretty good at it when you're constantly looking at it, but you'll always have those days where you're going to be a little off or, you just kind of get out of it. Or like you just got to build that habit to begin with, right? Because how many months or years did it take you to get good at estimating that thing? And that's maybe even based off of your own like cookware that you have. But if you were to use someone else's cookware, be it at a different house or at a restaurant, your kind of frame of reference is gone almost sometimes, unless you're using things like your hands that you have with you can compare. So it's just kind of measuring
I,
things out that way.
I've brought food scales to restaurants.
I love
It's
that for you.
I'm not proud of it, but I did it.
I'm proud of you. That's great.
Yeah, it is embarrassing though.
You're like, okay, pull it out. Honestly, I would like go and hug that person if I saw someone doing that at a restaurant. I'd be like, good job, dude. You're sticking to your
Yeah,
goals. I love it. Like,
yeah.
that's so great.
Trying to weigh 210 pounds year round is really tough.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
for me especially, because like all I will drop underweight real quick because
Hmm.
if I'm not tracking everything, and
Yeah.
I won't eat breakfast and I won't eat lunch, then I'll just eat dinner, and the next thing you know, I'm seven
Hmm.
pounds down.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean
but
that's what drives me crazy about that kind of thing too, right? Like I get it that that's our goal, that's the way we kind of want to live. I just see people just killing themselves, like lightweights trying to like get down and get every little pound off, and you guys look so sad
yeah,
when
it
you're
is.
doing that.
It's sad, but records are on the line. So
It's right, and I'm like, yeah, hey, you know what? To some people, I guess that's worth it. So, it's just kind of helping people with where they're at and working through that. But try not to get too far away from that weight you got to drop, though. Otherwise, you're in trouble, in terms of getting back down.
yeah, I've I've
Yeah.
I've I've only made like a few like real like water cuts, and
Mhm.
some will argue like they are. I think it was like the most was like 12 pounds,
Oof.
and some people are like that's like a nothing cut. Like everyone can do that real easy, and I'm like I don't know.
Mm,
At the time, I
eh,
was working a job delivering beer, and we
yeah.
throw in the summer, so like cutting weight happens in the summer, and I'm
Yeah.
having to like haul kegs, full kegs, up and down stairs at like bars,
Uh-huh.
and that was hell. the
Yeah, I
the not
bet.
eating wasn't that bad. I can live with that. It was the fact that
Uh-huh.
like I'm not eating and it's summertime and I'm
And
hauling
not
kegs around.
drinking.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it doesn't sound horribly fun to me for sure. But and like I would argue that that's probably not the, face of health for most time either. I don't think like dehydrating yourself and starving yourself down to a certain number is really that healthy. So a lot of people think that like these higher level athletes or, sports you got to cut for, you're being healthy, you're working out all the time, you're doing all these things. But like high level sports where you got to do stuff like that, I would argue aren't exactly the healthiest for you. They're kind of a bit extreme in the wrong direction sometimes.
no, and I look at like it's really even in the Highland Games like being 380 pounds like is not the pinnacle of health. It is
Depends on the
not.
frame for sure. I mean, yeah.
True. I mean, like,
I
but
mean, we got
I
Thor
don't think
Bjornsson over there. I mean, yeah, he could carry 380 fine.
right. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he was like Hathor, like at his like biggest was like 420, and he's like, let's get
Hmm.
bigger. Ridiculous.
Yeah, why not?
That's a crazy human.
Yeah, he is a crazy human.
Yeah, they shouldn't exist. It's like I don't know. I think
Yeah.
those guys were supposed to get wiped out during the flood.
Well, there's
But
at least one giant still here.
yeah. Um, let's talk a little bit about oh, let's do the bro nerd spectrum. Are you familiar with the bro nerd spectrum?
No, but I saw it on your outline. I was like, what is that?
Okay,
I
so
want to talk more about that.
in the Highland Games, Austin had this theory years ago and told it to me, and I have a hard time disputing it. In the
Okay.
Highland Games, there are two types of people. There are
Hmm.
bros and there are
Yep.
nerds.
Yep.
And now we ask you a series of questions. I ask you a series of questions. And we determine where you're at. Like, how far
Okay.
bro are you? How far nerd are you?
Okay.
So, and we've got some submissions for questions from various guests and listeners over the time, and
Yeah.
I think we've gotten it. I mean, it's a science at this point how far
It's
we've
just,
come with the bro nerd
okay.
spectrum.
Okay. All right.
So, do you have like a favorite like fantasy series that like you're really into, whether it be book, movie, TV?
Okay. And anything. I mean, I gotta go classic with Lord of the Rings. I'm definitely a Lord of the Rings girl.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, like books or movies
Like in general, or you mean from Lord of the Rings?
from Lord of the Rings.
Um, both. I don't know
Have
if
you
I
read
can
the
choose
books?
that. I have read half of the series. I haven't finished it.
Okay. Okay.
I've read The Hobbit and The Fellowship, I believe. I don't think I finished the last two for reading, but I've definitely seen, I guess I'd have to say movies then, because I have seen all the movies and I have the like extended cuts that I definitely marathon all the time.
It's the best.
Hmm.
It is.
For
That
sure.
is, what is it, like 32 hours or something like that? It's awesome.
Oh, something like that. Yeah, every once in a while, every few years, I'll cycle back through and like watch the whole thing. Every once in a while, that's a classic. But um, yeah, I mean, definitely Lord of the Rings. In terms of like, do video games count in that, or are we just talking like series for like movie books?
Well, you have, okay. Let's see. What do you got to say about video games? What's
Oh,
your
I'm a
go-to for
huge
there?
World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft for 15 years.
Okay.
For the Horde, baby.
What uh, what race of character do you play? That's
I'm
like you be your favorite.
a Horde Tauren. That's my main, and has been since
Yeah,
I
dude.
started 15 years ago.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I uh I like them because like they're like the biggest of them all. At the
Mhm.
time, this would have been when I was playing was 2009 maybe.
Uh huh. Yeah,
I
2010
what
is when I started playing in Wrath.
Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
I that was a real fun time. I was not good at the
Yeah.
game at all. I didn't know how to play.
Yeah.
Cuz like it's all like keyboard and mouse, right? And like I can't
Yep.
type. So like it's all very much like
Yeah. Oh, I still
I
have to
just
look at the keys. Don't get me wrong.
I was having a blast doing it though. I used to just play World of Warcraft and just kind of wander around.
Sounds like a
Uh,
good time.
yeah, it was awesome. For the time, it was
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I had to suicide a character because I went. That's the best way to describe it. Like I just abandoned the guy because he went too
Okay.
far in to some place where there's like creatures all around, and
Okay.
they were way higher level. So like one hit, I'm dead. I wake up in the
Mhm.
graveyard, start walking again, killed.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing that. I'm like, I can't inch him along. I could only go this distance. I tried to like
Oh yeah.
navigate, like,
Well,
yeah,
it's a death race. We call it corpse walking. So, you just
yeah.
keep dying and keep jumping until you hopefully get to another graveyard. You can res that and get out of the get out of the zone.
It wouldn't. I couldn't make it that far. I just I'm like, well, he's dead now, so that's that. Um,
Yeah.
World of Warcraft. Okay, very cool.
Yep.
So you've been playing it consistently for 15
Like
years.
15 years. Yeah, I started playing. My brother got me into it because he used to like he'd babysit me and I wouldn't leave him alone. It was really annoying. So he would set me up on his computer to level his characters while he took a nap. So
Okay.
that's kind of how I got into it when I was younger. And then he eventually helped me make my own account and I would like buy his hand-me-down computers from him when he upgraded so I could play.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got into playing, World of Warcraft with my brother, and he got me into his guild, and we've just kind of all been friends and family for that 15 years. People come and go, but we still have some of the original members, and it's one of the oldest like guilds on the server that started first day of vanilla. And it's just a fun little family. In fact, I've got a couple Highland Games people to join the guild with me now, so like we're all kind of hanging out.
Awesome.
Mhm.
I tried to play. I was like maybe 2 years ago.
Mhm.
They brought something back. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Um, so me and my two younger brothers,
Mhm.
one of them has been playing for 15 years every day. He
Love
has a
it.
record he has to maintain. Only time he's taken like time off from playing We went
Yeah.
on a cruise to the Caribbean one time, and he had to take 5 days
Mhm.
off. But
Yeah.
when we got back, the first thing he did was got on World of Warcraft and then went to where he
Uh-huh.
worked to talk to his coworkers. He's the oddest duck, but
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, you guys should start playing again." Being the other brother, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
"All right, I'll give it a go."
Yeah.
Um, he he's been playing it so long, and I don't know what he does on there all day long.
Oh, you seriously, I could spend years and like never run out of things to do. There is so much to
He
do in this game.
I think what he said was he makes potions and sells them in the storehouse, and that's all he does. Well, then
Hmm.
like except for like I think it's maybe Thursday nights, uh,
Yep.
his friends go raid.
Hmm.
Um, but when we get into the game, and he's like, oh, "Okay, get to this point, and I'll meet you over there." And we're like, "Okay." So we're all like teaming up, and he's like, "Oh, here's
Hmm.
these bags, here's this gold, here's these mounts. He got us everything." And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Well, now what am I supposed to like work towards?" And he's like, "Oh, we go raid now." And I'm like, "I want to like."
You jumped
he
right
t-
in. Yeah, for
yeah, he
sure.
took the steam right out of it. I was like, "Oh man, like there's no
Yeah.
like getting
Oh,
back
you
into
can
it."
make that as easy and as hard as you want, though. I mean, what, over several thousands of mounts now. There's mount collectors who have over 1,000 now. You can go do pet battling. Like, you can basically do Pokemon inside of WoW. You can go RP, you can go raid. There's made a lot more PvE options for you to do solo if you don't want to work with other people, which sounds great to me sometimes because I would love to just go chill with some internet monsters by myself for a bit, you know?
Right.
And so they've made like something for everybody. That's why I love the game. And it's just surrounded by friends and family that I've known for a while. So it's just a fun game I've always been a part of. And probably always will. I'll die with a WoW subscription. I'm calling it now.
I'm into it. Man,
Yeah, you
so
should get back into it. You should come join us. It'll be fun.
no, it's I don't know.
You're like, no, I don't need more hobbies.
That's very true. I have a whole bill or whiteboard over here with just
Yep.
stuff on it.
Same.
um,
Yep.
I mean, I would like to. I think that sounds awesome.
You should
But
hit me up.
I'm not good at typing, so it makes it very difficult to do anything.
That's why you get
Uh,
on Discord and you can talk.
well, okay, that's another thing too that I didn't know about when I was playing back in the day. That like people
Hmm.
would talk to each other,
Oh,
like through
Ventrilo
microphone.
back in the day.
Yeah, like you can talk to people, and like I'm trying to
Hmm.
type slow and like
Yeah.
dude, I was getting booted out of groups left and right because
Oh no.
I can't contribute fast enough. And I was like,
Yeah.
fine, I'm just gonna go wander around, go look at stuff.
Well, see, there's plenty of options for you right now, like I said, that don't involve interacting with a ton of people. And then if you do, they even actually have a chat function inside, like you can talk inside of the game too now. You don't have to have a separate
Yeah,
application, but most people still have a Discord, but you can still do that now through the game.
yeah,
They've made it a lot more friendly to, I think, more people.
yeah. Well, we went pretty hard there on World of Warcraft.
I was about to say, I think we know what side of the spectrum I'm on.
Yeah, like,
You
but
know?
the question is like, do you have like any bro in you? That's like the real
Do
question.
I have any, I mean, I flip telephone poles for fun.
Yeah,
I love to
see,
lift stones and stuff too.
that's like the thing that we've discussed is like is competing in the Highland Games like
Like a
broy
bro thing or a
like
nude or a nerd thing. Yeah.
right. So like I think like just competing in the Highland Games is neutral, but if you do like weightlifting or powerlifting or anything like that
Hmm.
tends to be more bro.
Yeah.
Do you do any other sports right now besides Highland Games?
Not anything like super committal. And this is going to cement my side of the thing here. The only other sport I've done recently outside of the Highland Games was fencing or SCA, which is rapier fighting.
Okay.
So I wouldn't exactly call that a bro sport either.
I heard that women use a different sword than like the men do. Is that true? Or
For
is it the same?
fencing.
Yeah. Like one's like called a foil and the other one's called something else.
Oh, so that's not a difference between men and women. That's a difference between the categories of fencing. So there's foil, there's saber,
Oh,
and there's épée. So those are all just different types of weapon and different styles of fencing. So the one I did
okay.
was épée, and that one is basically where the whole body is game for hitting, like to get touch points on. So your hands count, your everything counts. Versus I think I didn't do foil or saber, but saber has a weird thing with like a right of way for when you can get points, and then foil I think is just like the chest and torso count for touch points. So if you hit someone's hand, it doesn't count, but if you hit their chest, that's what counts.
Have you seen like that? There's like some rapier sword fighting in like the 1920s in Germany with like these dudes are like just getting hacked up and they're like they have like big scars across their face and
Dang, I can't say that
yeah
I've
and
seen it. No.
as oh man it's insane like there's
Yeah.
like old like pictures and photos of them doing it like I
Uh-huh.
think the swords are blunted but like if you swing a
The
thin metal
sides
object at
aren't.
someone
Yeah.
yeah
Like
it's going to
right.
hurt and it's going to cut you
Hmm.
but they're getting torn up
Yeah.
how does someone get into fencing like make that
um.
decision.
Make that decision. I mean, like, again, I always just thought it was cool and knew about it. And like, I guess what really got me started was technically, again, in England, I did try one day of fencing, at my school. One time they had a class that went through for a day. And so, hey,
Yeah,
that
it's
was fun.
it's either fencing or like Harry Potter like duels. I imagine like
Hey, Quidditch is a real sport. I've seen it. And they would practice at U of A. They had practice. I would walk by it on my way to the athletics building. They had Quidditch practice.
did they have the stick brooms? Or they running off
Yep.
brooms? See, okay.
I think they were mostly just sticks, but maybe to compete they have an actual broom. I don't know.
Either way, this is and we've discussed this on here before with other guests.
Uh-huh.
The they could make a competitive Quidditch game in real life
Hmm. Yeah.
if you just get rid of the brooms and like organize the rules and like you can have a pretty fun game, but you
Uh-huh.
have to get rid of the sticks. Because I mean, like,
That's
does I
part
guess
of the fun.
do the sticks make it Quidditch? I don't know, but I
I
think if they got
mean,
rid of
I
those, they got a pretty
guess.
good game.
I mean, it's
This
already there. I mean, they have nationals for Quidditch, right?
well,
It's already an organized sport. It's already there, Jacob.
what's more of a thing? Nationals for Highland Games or nationals for Quidditch? Like what would be considered more real?
I mean, I think it's how far you are into it. If you're really into Quidditch, you would probably say that's better. If you're in Highland Games, better. I guess I would think more people. I want to say people would know more about the Highland Games, at least for Caber, but like maybe that's not even true because everyone knows what Quidditch is. They just might not know it's a
Right.
real sport, outside of the books and the movies.
Yeah. Do you know the rules for the snitch in real life Quidditch?
I don't really know
Okay.
any of the rules, no.
See, I don't know any of the rules either. I just know what I saw in the movies.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they can do a golden snitch in real life. I don't know how that makes any sense.
I mean, have you Googled it?
No, because I could Google it right now, but again, I can't type, so like it's going to be
Okay,
me staring
Quidditch
off like
rules
this.
IRL. Okay,
Nice.
there's a Wikipedia page that says Quidditch in parentheses real life sport. I'm okay, glad um we gotta make that stipulation there. Oh, it was created in 2005. Nice. Let's see. Like there's a picture here. Oh yeah, they're using actual brooms in the picture.
See, I don't
That's
like that.
helpful. It's
That just
called
like
Muggle Quidditch. because because it's real life, you know.
we can't fly. Yeah, okay.
Oh, this is great. There's okay, but it's governed by the International Quad Ball Association.
Okay.
They, for some reason, couldn't call it Quidditch Association. Maybe that wasn't legit enough. I don't know.
J.K. Rowling wouldn't give that up. She's like, no.
You're right. She trademarked the fuck out of that.
Yeah. She's like, pay me and you
Let's
can do
see.
that.
Why isn't she like the head of this? She could run this.
I don't know. She's too busy tweeting or
She could
something.
have her own team. Oh man.
It's always something with her.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Let's see.
Have you ever
I don't even know
seen
the names of the stuff. What was
have you
that?
ever seen have you ever seen Battlestar Galactica?
Oh, forever ago, but yeah.
Okay. Well, they play a game in there called Pyramid, and
Uh-huh.
I want someone to come up with like pyramid rules because that seems like a pretty
Yeah.
fun game.
Let's do it. Okay, so we're
Too many
gonna
hobbies.
invent. Yeah, exactly. We're okay. So let's see. What is our takeaways from this? We're gonna invent measuring spoons that are easier to eat out of, and
Hmm.
then we're going to make IRL pyramid
Yep.
and fix Quidditch.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, they just have to figure out the snitch issue, and I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm
what they
not.
do. I don't know what they do for the bludgers. I imagine it's like two guys floating around the outside outskirts of like the field, just
I'm just trying to
hucking
nail
dodgeballs.
people.
Just
Yeah.
random dodgeballs are just flying.
How fun would
That's
that be, though?
oh, dude! Like, get rid of the sticks.
I'll
Some
be that
beefy dude on the
person.
south. You'll be throwing
I'll be that
the
person that's
bludgers.
just chucking the bludgers
Yeah,
for sure. Oh yeah, I mean
yeah.
it says so here. Okay, to impede their opponents, beaters can use bludgers or dodgeballs to hit opposing players and temporarily remove them from play. So it looks like they're giving them to the team members to throw at the opposite team.
Oh, see, but like if you get hit with the dodgeball, then like you're out for a period or you have a time limit. Like I don't know. I think you should be able to get whacked as many times as they're willing to throw it at you, and like you can
Right?
still be playing and then just take one to the dome and you got to just shake it off because that's
Right?
what you do, and that's what you do in Wizard Quidditch.
I mean, to be fair, they did have to drag people off the field and put them in like the little hospital to recover from, that
That's
and
because Harry,
give them the pumpkin juice to fix
yeah,
their bones.
yeah, Harry was being bewitched, or his broom was being bewitched by Quirrell.
Right.
So like
Yeah, that's true.
that's
Okay,
an odd thing to
here's the
happen.
snitch. Here's the
Okay.
snitch. Okay. So the snitch is a tennis ball inside a long sock hanging from the shorts of an impartial official dressed in yellow. You got to go catch some guy's balls hanging from a sock in their pants.
I mean,
That that's what you got to do.
so I mean, I'm pretty fast and aggressive. Like, there's no way this guy's going to like outrun me.
Yeah.
So like, I'll end the game right then and there.
I mean, not if you get hit by a bludger hard enough.
You can imagine it's just the other team sees me gaining on them and they're just hitting me, but I'm powering through because I want to win. That's
Okay, so
I'm gonna go
what
to
I'm
bed.
hearing is this
Mhm.
needs to be an extra event at the end of a Highland Games. We could have a Quidditch match because I'm down.
Yes,
Just put
that.
some like sticks on the end of your sheaf fork and let's ride the sheaf forks in.
Oh, that's dangerous. My fork is
And
sharp.
extra danger in Quidditch for sure. You could kind of stick each other with the sheaf forks.
Oh my goodness.
Perfect.
I mean, that's not nothing. That's something.
Okay,
So,
we're also inventing Highland Games Quidditch. That's what we're doing.
yes, Highland Games Quidditch.
Perfect.
So let's get back to the bro nerd.
Yeah, anyway.
When you like how like you did weightlifting, right?
hmm
For a time.
Yep.
How many like meets did you do that in?
Oh, like
Or
I didn't I never competed in actual
okay.
weightlifting. Yeah, I only weightlifted for throwing. I am a thrower who lifts. I use lifting to throw. I was never actually like a competitive weightlifter. I almost went for it in high school to like get some state records at the time, but like I just meh. I'd rather throw.
Do you know your squat bench deadlift numbers? Like your maxes
I
or your
never
PRs?
Yeah, I do. For squat, I think it was 350. And then for clean, well, I mean, are we including Olympic lifts too?
Sure.
I think clean was 235, bench was 205, and deadlift I never maxed, but I could do 305 for two
I mean, I
at the
could pull up
time.
my rep max calculator and tell you what that is.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think personally that's like super impressive, honestly, but that's what I had at the time.
It is what it is. Um, I mean, so because like your gym numbers, that lends itself to bro.
Okay.
Um, do you do your own programming?
Yes, but I'm not super good about writing it down. So like I just kind of know what cycles have worked for me in the past, like in high school
Mm-hmm.
from what other people have written for me, and I can sit down and write a program. I just really do.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just keep cycles in my head.
Do you think? And this is just, I guess, a side question because
Hmm.
this has come up before about what's more bro or what's more nerd.
Hmm.
And I think writing your own programming is more of a bro thing.
Hmm.
And then other people are like, "Oh no, that's a nerd thing because you have to like research like whatever. Like
Hmm.
you gotta read like the manuals." And my thought is, because it's just based off experience, the most
Yeah.
nerdy people that I know pay someone to
Hmm.
do their own programming for them. What do you think's more broy?
Mm, I don't know. I guess I see both sides of the argument there. I guess I would say bro. I'll say bro.
Yeah, perfect. That's a good answer. I see. I do all my own programming, um,
Yeah.
but I would not consider that part of like my nerdiness.
Hmm.
That is not it. That is purely because I want to be jacked and I want to
Hmm.
throw far. So like
Right.
that's why I
Yeah.
do the research is so I
Hmm.
can be strong and vain. That's what I want.
Strong and vain. Yep.
But like the random tabs I have open on my phone about Lord of the Rings, like that's the nerd. Like that's
Yeah, for sure.
but so another one, another question. Alien or Predator? Have you seen the Alien movies?
Yep.
Like with Sigourney Weaver
Mhm.
and the
Oh yeah.
Predator movies with Arnold
Yep.
and Danny Glover. What what do you prefer, Alien or Predator?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think they're both great films. I love
One's
both of
better than
them.
the other.
Is it? Um, I just think they're kind of different. Like, is this with one you think is more bro and one you think is more nerd, or are they both nerd or bro?
They're one's bro, one's nerd.
Okay, I got you. I mean, I think Predator's definitely more bro and Alien's more nerd.
That is correct.
In terms of that. So I don't know. I mean, it just depends on my mood. I guess I can be in a nerd or a bro mood because there's sometimes where I'm like, hell yeah, I want to watch Predator. I just want to wreck some people, you know? And then other
Yeah.
times I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I could watch Alien and like kind of pay attention to all the subtle stuff going on. I also did like some film study class too, so like I'm like paying attention like to how it was filmed and stuff too. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
whoa, okay. So I don't know. I guess I would have to go for like Predator for a more chill movie to just kind of chill and just watch Arnold wreck some people. So.
That's very broy.
Mhm.
Uh, I I didn't take a film class, but when I watch like I'm a prop guy. If I'm watching a movie,
Mhm.
like I'm looking at like the props and I
Nice.
geek out on that. And like Alien has got some really good props that like
Yeah.
people like some prop master and like some group of nerds in a studio
Mhm.
have like molding plastic to make these things. I
Yeah.
appreciate that a lot. You don't get a lot of
Did
that
you
in
ever
Predator.
like make props or like were you ever involved in like filming or anything like that?
No,
Or
I
you just think
just
it's cool?
yeah, because like my favorite director is Wes Anderson. Have
Mhm.
you ever seen any Wes Anderson movies?
Name a few.
He did the Grand Budapest Hotel. He did the
Okay.
Life Aquatic with a lot of Bill Murray stuff. He did Rushmore, Bottle
Oh, you did
Rocket.
Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yeah,
Oh,
those are
I
his
love
like
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
yeah, those are his animated ones. The rest of them, there's Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs are his like animated ones, or claymation, or whatever they call that.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But his filming style is like very unique. Like it's very linear. Everything's in a line, and
Yeah.
or like right angles, very like harsh lines. But the props and the colors he uses are like that he chooses is very unique. Like, and as I started watching this movie, I started falling in like I started having a lot of appreciation for like what it takes to make a movie look like it is. Because like you and I were just like in a movie right now, dressed as we are, like it wouldn't look right. It would look very like it'd be very natural because like that's what people dress.
Real.
But on film it doesn't look right. Just like in film, like dialogue people have, like communicating back and forth.
Yeah.
It only works on the TV. But if you try to communicate that in real life, it doesn't translate well.
Oh yeah, it's all definitely an art for sure.
Yeah. But okay, so I've heard enough about the Bro Nerd. I can tell you where you're at. So it's and I've thought about this a little. Yeah, I thought about this a little bit. Just the general scaling of it. Because we give people like you're like, oh, you're 20% nerd, 80% bro kind of thing.
Okay. Yep.
Which I think but I think soon we'll discuss this a little bit more. We're going to start giving people like, oh, nerd, just big old stamp, nerd or bro. But you are a 90-10 nerd.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty high.
I absolutely knew that was coming.
I didn't ask about anime. Do you watch any anime?
Recently I haven't watched as much, but oh yeah, I have definitely watched anime in the past.
Okay. 95. 95. You have the highest score. Good job.
The highest score of what? Being a nerd?
Yep. So far.
Oh, yes.
And we've asked a lot of people.
You're like, damn, you are a nerd, ma'am.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like I kind of knew that going in that you might just take the crown, but you really sold it. 15 years of WoW anime. But like
watching anime and
yeah, you can't be 100% because of knowing your maxes and being on like talking about Predator. So
throwing, lifting, and like the brand Flex Comics. I mean, like I love that, because it's just nerd stuff for bros.
What?
Flex Comics.
What is that?
Yeah, Full Flex Comics. It's a brand, so they sell like nerd mashup bro T-shirts, kind of a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So look them up. So they have like I have like a lot of their Halloween line because Halloween is my favorite thing ever. So they have like hold on, so I'm trying to think of like they have like a pumpkin shirt that's like it's a guy that's buff built out of pumpkins, and they've got like jacked like Nightmare Before Christmas. They've got like a swole Jack Skellington, and just like different mashups like that. So I love that brand. I have stuff from them. They're exactly what I'm about.
We are you familiar with Haley Gao?
Yeah.
See, you and her need to have like a spooky off. She's all about the Halloween.
Oh, I know. I love her. I love her with that. She's probably got me beat on that, honestly, in terms of the spookiness. But I love Halloween. All of my animals are named after a Halloween theme. I go crazy decorating. It's just my favorite time of year.
Well, do you have any plans for this season? Any big goals you want to hit or that you want to share with us?
You like in terms of like trying to hit numbers or like break records or that kind of a thing?
Numbers, records, places you want to go, things you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I promised myself when I got out of track and field that I wouldn't make this a big numbers game or like make this a huge deal in my head, because I think that kind of can take the fun out of it sometimes and just make it really stressful. I just
Yeah.
always wanted this to be fun. I wanted to come in this and to just have fun, to relax and not really worry if I'm having a bad day, just like have fun, get out there, throw, be with people that you like, and see what you can do. So I don't usually like set hard number goals. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm feeling really good today. Let's push it and see if I can get a PR kind of a thing. But in terms of like places to go, I was invited to Victoria, Canada, so I think I'm excited to go compete in Canada once this year. And I want to do games in every state eventually. I guess that's kind of an overarching goal, is I want to compete in every state in a Highland Games. And so I try to add at least one new state every year. So I'm hoping this year to make that like Louisiana. So to go down and compete in Louisiana and Mississippi together. And then kind of make it like a trip with my brother, because he just finished his master's. So we were hoping to go spend a week and go basically eat our way through Louisiana, because we love food. We love Creole food and cooking and everything. So we just want to go like just take a food tour through the whole place. It'll be fun.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Austin, that's one of his goals, is to like throw in every state.
Hmm.
And I still for myself as well, because I'm like, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think every year so far I've added a new state, so
Hmm.
that's good. And you
Yeah. So what
last
new?
year you got one of the hard ones, which is Alaska. You got
Yeah.
that last year,
Yeah,
which
Alaska's out of the way for sure. But I mean,
yeah,
that was a great game. I'd go back there in a heartbeat if I've got the time and money. That was fabulous games. I know you've
yep,
been before too.
yeah. I desire to go back.
Oh,
It is,
same. I would move to Alaska if I could.
yeah.
Cool place.
I can't speak highly enough about like just that games in general. Like the energy,
Hmm.
I've never felt that energy anywhere else at a games.
Hmm.
Like
Oh
there's
yeah, whole
like
thing's
Jenny knows
incredible.
how to like make the crowd care about you,
Hmm.
and it's great. And it's
Oh
Alaska, so
yeah.
like they have the hard winters, so like they're dying to do stuff in the summer, and they are all
Oh
about
yeah. They're ready to come
being
out and just have
yes,
fun in the sun for like a week,
yep,
in
yeah,
Alaska. But yeah, no, that was fabulous games. And Jenny last year doing the Alaska, women's world championships. Oh man, she threw it out of the park. Like,
yeah.
like we got like a goodie bag with stuff with our names on it and the logos. She made us trading cards to hand out to people. I still have like a stack of these trading cards over there that like I'm taking to games now still and handing them out. Like a lot of us are.
Yep.
Emily, Alyssa, all of us. Like it's just fabulous. It was such a cool thing that she did.
Yeah, I'm still handing out stickers that I got.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
yeah,
That's a good one.
it's
But I
the
think the
best.
other hard one will be Hawaii. I definitely need to get to Hawaii and compete in that game sometimes.
Yeah, I think Hawaii has two, if I recall,
Oh, do
two
they? I only
different
knew
ones.
about the one for sure.
I might be wrong.
I don't know.
I've been
You're probably right.
I've been telling myself they have two,
Yeah.
but yeah. So we are coming up on time.
All
Do
right.
you have anything you want to add, to plug anything?
I mean, I'll say that like I'm registered dietitian and I have recently opened up my own practice. So my business name is Enigma Nutrition. If anyone is looking for some extra nutrition help or meal plans or just wants to talk about it or how that can translate to games or changing weight composition, body composition kind of thing, hit me up.
Is that something you do remote?
Yep. Yeah, telehealth remote, so I can be pretty much from anywhere. I mean, it gets a little funky with some of the rules for me being a dietitian in different states, but we can talk about it, see if we can work around
Sure.
it.
Uh, awesome. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for coming
Perfect.
on. I appreciate it. Um,
Yeah, thank you.
and that's it, guys. So far, God
Perfect.
bless.